It is insane how fast and popular Waymo is getting. It's now spreading city to city all across America, and for good reason. And I want to say this, as a former Uber and Lyft driver, hate to say it, there's a lot of advantages to Waymo. I know it's just, Waymo's not perfect. Waymo's far from perfect, but there are a lot of really good things about Waymo. And in this video, I'm talking about the 5 big reasons why Waymo is better than Uber and Lyft. Number 1, accidents. This is a big thing. There's been a lot of studies and statistics and research to show that when you take a Waymo versus an Uber or Lyft taxi, let me just say human drivers. If we look at Waymo cars or self-driving cars, the AI, the robots, etc., for human drivers, it has been shown through a lot of studies and meta-analysis that there's less accidents that happen when it comes to taking Waymos. In addition, less injuries. So let's say if you're in a Waymo, you're less prone to an injury as a result of an accident as opposed to being with a human driver. This is a big thing when it comes to people's safety, especially deal with the external aspects of being on the road. Number 2, privacy. This is the big one for a lot of people that, let's say if you want to be on a call, like you just don't want to have to deal with the human interaction, let's say for whatever reason, you just want to be alone. This is also another big reason why people are getting Waymos, right? And I think the big thing for them is they can get inside the Waymo. There's no other humans inside the vehicle, right? It's not one of those situations where there's somebody there just monitoring it, making sure everything's okay. You're there completely on your own. Now, we'll say this. It is a bit of an illusion. Again, I got to be honest, Waymo isn't perfect because, one, there is video cameras inside of the Waymo. So they're monitoring you at all times. So let's say if you don't have your seatbelt on, they'll kind of pop up and say, hey, we noticed you're not wearing your seatbelt, et cetera, et cetera. There is microphones as well in the Waymo, but the way it works is the microphones are muted. So they can't hear what you're saying, but they can unmute them if, like, say, they need to talk to you again to put your seatbelt on, a safety violation, whatever the case is. I will say this, I feel like I take that with a grain of salt. Any single time they say, oh, we're not really listening, the microphone's muted. I don't know, right? Tough to say, but I will say this, when it comes to Waymo, I think the biggest thing is one, the privacy, but I think it's more of the illusion of privacy because most people know in this day and age, hey, I am being videotaped when it comes to Waymo. They might talk to me through the microphone in case of something up or something happens. But 2, I think for some people, they're like, hey, I don't want to have that human interaction. Some people just don't want that. They don't want to have to get in the car, never mind privacy, but have to be like, hey, I'm Mark, nice to meet you. How's your day going so far? Like all those kind of formalities. And in some cases, there's some good parts about that, right? Of course, having human interaction. But in other cases, for a lot of people, they're saying, hey, get in the Waymo. I don't have to have that kind of service level conversation. I can just get in, be in my own head. I can doom scroll on my phone. I can have a conversation. I can do what I want. Number 3, feature control. This is another one that when it comes to just having the ability to have it be your own thing, if that makes sense, a lot of people love that. Like say if I get in a Waymo, I could turn up the temperature to make it hotter or cooler if I want. I can completely control the music. I can put on different radio stations. I can pretty much control the vehicle, obviously not driving it, but I can do it pretty freely. And we've all been there where, like, say you get an Uber or Lyft and you're like, hey, can I connect to your Bluetooth? Can I start playing music? And sometimes the driver's like, oh, yeah, give me a second. Then they pull over and stuff like that. You know, I've even been some Ubers and Lyfts where, like, I'm like, hey, it's kind of cold. Do you mind turning up the heat? And the driver's like, this temperature's fine. Or whatever, right? And I think in a Waymo, you have full access and freedom, if I'd use that word, to use all the features that most cars typically have, right? In a sense, it's the closest thing to kind of controlling the car on your own without, I guess, fully controlling it. In a sense, like I want to stress in a sense, and being able to just play the music that you want, turn it up as loud as you want or soft as you want, being able to control all these different features. A lot of people say, hey, I'd much rather do this because I have the entire freedom to do what I want when it comes to controlling the features in the car. Number 4, personal safety. This, I feel like, is a massive one, especially on Friday and Saturday nights, because the first point I made on this video was more external safety. Let me word it like that when it comes to getting any potential accident. Way less of a chance when you're in a Waymo. But another one is now the safety inside of the vehicle. I just did a video about how Waymo now has a teen option where parents can kind of sign up their teens 14 to 17 if they want to get a Waymo. And I can see for a lot of parents, they're like, hey, I'd much rather trust, like, say, my son or daughter, who's actually 14 years old, in a Waymo where there's not any other adults in it or any other people that I may have to worry about. And with a Waymo, there's no one there. Like I said before, the complete privacy, they have it to themselves. And there are a lot of people, like say, are saying, look, on a Friday night, it's 2 a.m. Like say you've been drinking, and like say you're not in the best state of mind, because it is rare, but it still can happen. There's been a lot of instances, as we all have heard of Uber and Lyft drivers physically assaulting passengers or sexually assaulting them and more, people are saying, hey, it's 2:30 a.m. I'm super faded. I'm dead. I feel like I'm going to pass out. I'm just exhausted from a crazy night out. I'd much rather get in a Waymo, not have to talk to anybody, but also not have to worry about anyone potentially doing something to me or attacking me or whatever, right? Or maybe, driving me to the wrong area or driving me to a sketchy part of town. And the next thing I know, I'm in an uncomfortable situation with Waymo. You don't have to worry about that. And I do want to stress, statistically speaking, most Uber and Lyft drivers are great, no issues. But there is that chance. And I think a lot of people are saying, hey, even though it's unbelievably rare, it can still happen. But with Waymo, though, you don't have to worry about that at all. Number 5, cleanliness. This is another big one. I hate to say it, especially as a former driver. There's a lot of tips I've given on this channel about how to make more money, like say as an Uber driver and as a Lyft driver. And one of the first things I mentioned is having your car be clean, having it smell good. And yeah, so when it comes to Waymos, let's say someone just got in there with McDonald's and then they go to pick you up. You can't really control that. So again, it's not perfect, but these are the cars that do get cleaned almost every day. They go through car washes. Alphabet, who basically is running Waymo, and Google owns Alphabet, in case you know. So when it comes to Waymo, they want to make sure that the cars are spotless, that they're clean, that they smell good, that they look good both internally and also externally. And when it comes to getting Waymo, you never really have to worry about the car being super, super dirty, super, super grimy, smelling super bad. And with an Uber Lyft, I hate to say it, sometimes it is a bit of a dice roll. That sometimes I've gotten to some Ubers and Lyfts where I'm like, man, this car is like super, super dirty. And for me, I don't really care that much. I'm not that picky, but I know a lot of people who are, which is why people are saying, hey, a Waymo, super, super clean, let's just take that. And now a bonus point, and that is it being cheaper. Put a question mark on that because it does depend. I've talked about this in some videos. I did a video about it that Obi found, who did a bunch of pricing kind of analysis, that Waymo, on average, is more expensive than Uber or Lyft. It goes typically Waymo, then Uber, then Lyft, in case you're curious. The crazy thing, though, they found through meta-analysis and whatnot, is that people are still willing to spend more money, even though they know Waymo's more expensive. Now, I do have a couple theories about that. I think, one, some people say, hey, with all these advantages I have talked about in this video, it's worth the extra $5 or $10. It's not like it's crazily more expensive, but an extra $5 or $10 to have it to yourself, be private, be more safe. People are saying, yeah, definitely worth the money. 2, though, and I think this is another big thing that's been kind of interesting to me, seeing the way the whole landscape works, is that sometimes Waymo's actually cheaper, though, than Uber and Lyft. So yes, even though Waymo, statistically speaking, is more expensive than Uber or Lyft, people are still willing to spend money for that Waymo. They're willing to spend that upcharge. But on the flip side, there are some times for me where I pull up Uber, I pull up Lyft, and then I pull up a Waymo, let's say here in LA, and I'm like, oh, wow, actually, Waymo's cheaper. I'll just take that. No, great. Like I said, one, it almost seems like people are taking Waymos no matter what. Whether they're like, oh, it's safer, so I'm willing to spend that upcharge. Another thing is, if you look at the places that Waymo's in, like Los Angeles, Phoenix, Austin, San Francisco, these are very tech-focused areas, so maybe those are a couple different reasons why people are still willing to spend the upcharge. But even for getting the upcharge, like I just said, even for getting the upcharge, Waymo's, from my perspective, seems like it's getting cheaper and cheaper. I took my first Waymo almost about a year ago, and it was always more expensive than Uber or Lyft. Always. Like 100% of the time, more expensive. Now, though, I'd say about 30-ish% of the time, Waymo is actually cheaper now than Uber and Lyft. So all these things I've mentioned, which is kind of tricky, for all my drivers out there, all my Uber and Lyft drivers, my taxi drivers, my rideshare drivers. With all this being said, all these reasons why people are willing to spend more money for Waymo, some people are saying, wait a minute, not only do I get all these amazing features with the Waymo, privacy, safety, etc., but now it's also cheaper. Let's get a Waymo.